Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Beginner Bike Giveaway series. If it is your first time checking out one of these episodes, welcome. Thank you so much for checking it out. Today we are on this wonderful 2018 Suzuki SV650, brand spanking new. If you want to learn how you can win this bike or this Yamaha YZF R3, click the link below or go to patreon.com/YamiNoob to learn how to get started. My key is in my pocket and I put on my glove. Good job, Yami. Good job. So as you saw in the title of today's video, we are going to be discussing whether the SV650 is a good option for beginners. Is it too much for beginners? Is it too kind of pokey and scary and that kind of thing for first-time riders? And I thought, what better way to do that than to take it out here on Lime Creek Road in Austin, Texas, one of the best roads in Texas in my opinion. Let's get a little sound check. Good bike, good bike. And yeah, we'll talk about the handling a little bit, talk about the characteristics of the motorcycle, and whether or not it's good for beginners. So let's jump in. So got caught up a little bit back there having some fun with the SV, because this bike can, in the right hands, you can have a lot of fun with it. But yeah, so is it too much for a beginner? Dude, I don't know, man. That's such a hard question to answer because everyone's experiences are different, you know? You never really know where someone's coming for motorcycling or where they're at in life, you know? I would say for a 20-year-old guy who's never ridden before, maybe it is a little too much. Maybe it's a little too crazy. But for, maybe a 26-year-old guy who's got experience off-roading, this thing is going to be perfectly fine for you. So I think starting off with that in mind of what makes a bike suitable for beginners. We try to paint with a broad stroke of what a beginner is, but again, everyone's situation is a little different. It's a little different what people have got going on and where they're at in life and all that. So it's tough to say if it's okay for a beginner or not. So I would say this. If you're someone who's, just looking at this platform, never ridden a bike before, maybe it is too much. Maybe it is a little bit too much power for you, a little bit too much for you. Because it does make about 70-ish horsepower, which, if you don't come from a motorcycling background, doesn't seem like a lot, but that's actually quite a bit of power if you're not used to riding. And I think the other thing about this bike is the snatchy throttle. This motorcycle in slow speeds is actually pretty tricky. You really need to drag the rear brake and the clutch, to make sure that you're not giving it too much power on the throttle, because right from, idle to 2,000-3,000 RPM, it's really pokey and really kind of twitchy. And so every time, you're doing slow, even myself, I'm a relatively experienced motorcyclist. I was making a left-hand turn at an intersection one time, and I thought I was just going to give it a little bit of maintenance throttle, and it just really did one of those, So you really need to be mindful of that when you, are playing around with the SV and riding it and stuff. I think that's the biggest thing. Now, whether or not it's too much bike, again, think about your situation, what you're used to, what you're familiar with, and then really decide if it makes sense for you. I think this is a bike where if you are willing to just get one bike and keep it for a long time, you could take this bike and start your motorcycling sort of journey, and this could last you 2 years of runway of learning and doing and experiencing motorcycling, and it's just going to make you a better and better rider over time. Because the SV is just such a forgiving platform at speed, even though the throttle is a little choppy, or snatchy rather, at slow speeds. I think when you're at speed on a twisty road, it's really pretty good, honestly. Naked bikes are tuned to be more streetable. The suspension is usually a little bit softer, and so what happens is, for more experienced motorcyclists, and this is an issue I had with the FZ, it, at speeds and whenever you're cruising down the street, it can be a little soft. It can kind of dive a little bit more than you're looking to under braking. The FZ had a really big issue with that, honestly. You jump on the brakes, let's say like this, for example, and it would really dive. The SV650, however, doesn't have as much brake dive as the FZ, and so out of the factory, it's quite a pretty sporty suspension setup on the SV. The braking feel on it is kind of, it's a little squishy if I'm being honest. It works really well, and as you feed in more braking power, it's really progressive and you can really feel it working, but the initial bite is not that strong. But again, if you're willing to invest in a motorcycle and you don't really want another bike for a while, the SV is a great platform for that, because you can, I mean, you can buy one of these things and again be set up for at least 2 years to have fun with it. The best part about the SV as well is if you pick up a used one, not necessarily a brand new one like this, which is super nice, but some of the used ones, which you know, they've been making them for forever. I think they've been making the SV for literally 20 years now. It makes a great track bike or second bike if you decide to keep it, if you don't need to sell it to get your other next motorcycle. So I could really see a situation where someone picks up a SV650 for their first bike, and then afterwards, you know, after they've kind of had it for 2 years or so, they can then go and keep it, turn it into a track bike, keep it as like a road bike, keep it as like a practice bike for other kinds of things, and then get a nicer bike for themselves, whether, you know, whatever direction they want to go in their motorcycling journey. So let's say they pick up an SV650, then they want to try out something more adventure focused, maybe they get like an Africa Twin or something like that. Then the SV can, I mean, much like the FZ07, it's such an open canvas of a motorcycle that you can pick one up and then turn it into a track bike. You can swap out the front end for like a Gixxer front end or something like that. You can make it into just like a hooligan bike if you want to. You could turn it into like a wheelie machine if you wanted to. What else could you do? You could make it into like a long-term touring bike. Like you could kind of, you know, take it out on big trips if you wanted to. But if you got an ADV, you'd want to do that with that bike. But you see where I'm going with it. The SV has that quality of, you know, it's open canvas. So if you do get one, you could turn it into that. So I think for beginners looking at this bike, that's something to kind of think about. You know, it's a bike that's going to last you a long time if you take care of it. So that's what I really, really like about the platform too. But yeah, I think end of the day, you know, it's all about your right wrist, right? It's all about what you're feeding in over here. Any bike you get, right? You can get in trouble with the 300 if you wanted to. You could just keep it wide open for, you know, 20 seconds and eventually reach 120 miles per hour or whatever. But any bike has the potential to be too much for a beginner, and so you just need to respect every machine you get on, you know? If you are jumping on one of these for the first time and you've never ridden before, just, you know that going in. If you respect the machine, it's going to respect you and it's going to do what you want it to do, and you guys will get along and be good friends. If you give it inputs that don't make any sense, that feel awkward and janky and choppy, it's going to spit you right off, man. Any bike will do that. It doesn't have to be a big scary leader bike to do that, or a SV650 or something compared to 300. Any bike is going to rip you off that seat. Some bikes are much more forgiving. Some bikes are much more willing to kind of let you do stupid things with them. Other bikes, like FZ09 for example, is extremely unforgiving to bad inputs. You know, if you chop the throttle on FZ09, you're going you're gonna have a bad day on your hands. So I think any bike is capable of spitting you off. So that's kind of my short and the long of it. I think the SV is a great starter bike for sort of the older guy or someone who wants to be judicious with the throttle hand and wants to have a bike for a long term. I think you really can't go wrong. But that's going to wrap up today's episode. I hope you enjoyed. Remember, if you want to learn how to win this motorcycle, feel free to hit the link below on patreon.com/YamiNoob to get started. Also, go and check out some of our links down below for best starter gear if you're looking to get some gear for yourself. We've got all new links updated down there with my personal picks, so feel free to check that out as well. But anyways, I will catch you guys next time. See you later.